So, yesterday I attended the biggest regional of last weekend in Germany in Dreieich with around 330 players, and I ended up getting into the top 8 with a record of X1 with Infernoble. The first card deck is 1 Gearfried. 1 is just enough, like if you play multiples you start brigging with it, and you can always get access to it with the cards like Angelica or Ogier. So 1 is probably the best ratio for this. 3 okay, because it's the best Infernoble norm sum. And also, if you open this with Connector, you have a better combo, so the only way you brick with this is if you draw multiple okay. So I really like okay. 1 Oliver. Some people play 2 Oliver, but I think 1 is more than enough, because it's not that good as an extender. You just really want to search it if you really need it with your Durandal. Also can use it as a last extender going to Baroness, but it's not that good. Renote is way better for that. And also it's just, if your connector is, if you see Imperm with Connector, you can just use Oliver to go into Angelica, and that's the reason why it's important to play at least 1. Then 1 Turpin. It's just that you get to dump with okay, you don't really want hard world, so yeah. Then only 2 Renote. The most people are playing 3 because if you can play, and then you have Renote as an extender, you can make a better end board. But I rather want to search it with Durandal because you have multiple Durandals in your deck. And if you open Durandal with Collector, you can just search 5 minutes getting stopped, and if you hard draw this with Connector, it just does nothing because Connector isn't fire. The only way this is really good if you hard draw it is if you open Okie, because also if you open Oliver with Renote, you can theoretically play, but you just can't use Renote as an extender, and you don't really get value of Renote in that way. And like, the first one's just important for the combo, the second one's important for the follow-up, the third one is just not necessary. And then for the last Infernoble, 1 Rigatto. It's pretty much just a brick. One thing you might have noticed is I'm not playing Mogus. The reason for that is, in theory, I really like Mogus, because it just lets you recycle all your equips, so you can always search an equip spell with the field spell on the next turn. But in praxis, you don't need to grind with this deck. If this deck can play, you will probably win on turn 3, and you don't need to start grinding with this deck. And also, the draw of Mogus is not that relevant because we're in a draw format, so I don't want to play a card that's that under draw, so yeah. I think Mogus isn't necessary in the deck. Then 2 Red Layer, because I really like Red Layer as an extender, because it helps you not to brick, because the bricks in the deck are like the hands where you don't really have monster to equip with something. And if you open this, instead of like stuff like Fireflint Lady as an extender, you just special summon this, and then you can still norm summon Oki or stuff like that. And if you open Fireflint, you just need to search like Renote, and then it's really awkward to play, while with Red Layer, it's way better. Also, it's like good going saying to force stuff like red, because it's bigger than red. It's like Castillo, so you can force like Seal, and if they bounce your Red Layer, you can just summon it back. The only reason why I only play 2 is because I started bricking sometimes to get 2 Red Layers in my hand. And so I can still like recycle the Red Layer, but it's not that important. And yeah, with 2 I'm not bricking that often, so yeah. I think Red Layer is fine. You could also probably just play 1, so yeah. And the 1 Fireflint to special summon Ricardetto if you hard draw it. Then the best card in the deck, Near Space Connector and Aqua Dolphin. Getting handouts is just way too busted and shouldn't exist in the game. Especially because you can pretty much play around anything in this deck. If you see Imperm, you just search Oliver. If you see Nibiru, just play the Brown Nibiru. If you see Super Poly, just don't summon Gearfried. Yeah, handout is just way too busted. Then for the spells, like all the spells in the deck are crazy. The field spell is the card that makes the deck viable. It's just Rhoda every turn, Reborn every turn. It's crazy. Then this card is not just Rhoda, this card is also terraforming and can add my cards from the graveyard. So if you get rolled, you can still use this card to get card backs from the graveyard. Then Rhoda. 3 Rhodas as a crypt spell. And then for the one of the crypts, Almaze, Joyous, Phoenix Blade, and Didia. Those 3 are mandatory to play for the combo. And Didia is like the additional crypt spell, because if you like draw 1 of those, it's getting awkward to play with because you can't send 4 anymore. And Didia is definitely the best 5th equip spell. Just because the follow-up with DDR is crazy. Like, banishing stuff for Phoenix Blade, getting this in hand, resummoning the stuff you banish like Baroness, it's really good follow-up. So DDR is probably the best equip spell you can play as a 5th equip spell. Then for non-engine, Ash, because I respect Despia, and I think Ash is just pretty solid right now. 3 Droll, because we're in Droll format. Imperm is pretty much the same as Ash. It's pretty solid right now and it's like always value. And also, I won one match because my opponent played into the Imperm column, so that's pretty nice. And then 3 Book of Moon. Book of Moon is solid right now against Karch and Purrely and other stuff. Probably just not really good against Despia. The only thing I would probably change is play Book of Eclipse. Because Book of Eclipse is slightly better against the Chimera Despia version. Because you turn off the graveyard effects because they don't control the monster anymore. And yeah, it's also a little bit better against Purrely going first because if they open the field spell, Book is dead and Eclipse can still work. So yeah, that's it for the main deck. Then for the extra deck. First the Synchros. I'm playing 2 Angelica. I think you could only play 1 Angelica and it would be fine. But sometimes having the second one is nice, especially because there's the combo with Museum and Okie. It's just nicer to summon the second one and link off the first one. Then 1 Roland. Some people started playing 2 Rolands and 2 Charles, but I think 1 is enough. So yeah, the 1 Charles, you need to play it. And also the Baroness. You're locked into Warrior, so it's probably one of the best things you can summon in the deck. Then for the Exceeds, 1 Artorgus and 1 Dempsey. I think you need to play both because they serve different purposes. Like, this is pretty much a better card. It's like also a good going second because you can pop back row. But the difference is, to use this, you can't use Dundar as an extender. So if you need to use Dundar as an extender because your new space connector is getting ashed, you just need this, because then you summon this, search Renode, add back DDR, summon level 4 warrior, and then go into Synchro 5 from there on. And if you use this, you can still use Renode as an extender, because if you use this, you can't use Renode as an extender anymore. So yeah, I think you need to play both. Then for the links, Isolde, because Isolde is probably one of the best link monsters ever printed. The second one's for follow-up, and also if the first one's getting impermed on the first effect. Then 2 Charles. 3 is probably too much, 1 isn't enough, so 2 is probably the perfect ratio. 1 Ferocious Flame Swordsman. I actually never summoned this because it plays a little bit worse into Super Poly. And I think you don't really need it anymore, because Rotten is just better. But the float effect is kind of nice for stuff like Mirror Jade. If you out Mirror Jade, you can just summon this. It's getting destroyed and you can summon back Gearfried or Baroness or stuff like that. So I still really like this card as an option. Then yeah, Rotten. This card's just really nice. It's like better than Unicorn because you don't even need to discard a card. It also pops in your opponent's turn. It's just really solid. I used this multiple times. Then 1 Appaloosa to play around Nibiru. Because you just dump the... what's the name? Ricardetto. If you see the Nibiru, add DDR back with Renode, and then they need to use the Nibiru because they threaten Appaloosa. And if they use the... and either way, if they use Nibiru or they won't use Nibiru, you can play the game from there on. And then 1 Power Lord Ogre. The thing with Power Lord Ogres, I think this card is pretty bad. Yes, it's a skill drain out, but if you get into this card under skill drain, you probably win the game anyways. But I've used this card once in a tournament and it was against Tearlaments. It was just because I had an additional extender. And yeah, the thing is, I just stopped him from playing. Had this in my turn. I could have used the effect to pop like 4 cards he controls and go -3, so yeah, probably not that great of a card, but it could be anything like Baguska, Zeus or anything. So yeah, this is just the flex spot of the extra deck right now. Then for the side deck. The side deck is a little bit weird because I'm playing many duos because I wasn't sure what I really want to play. So yeah, I played 2 Bells. It's just solid against stuff like Labyrinth, but never faced Labyrinth. But I also use this against the Chimera deck because you can just stop the Chimera fusion, and if they don't have an additional one, you pretty much stop the Chimera. Then those three, they're just really solid right now. And also against Chimera, they're way better than Cosmic because they don't target. Then the still 2 Cosmics, because I just really like that I can side in going first against decks with field spells and permanent spells like Purrely or Kashtira. I just really like Cosmic Cyclone. Then 3 Encore. It's just the best card against Purrely. Like if you draw this card against Purrely, they only have like 1 interruption or so, because the only thing they get is follow-up, they don't get any draws. So yeah, Encore is just really strong against Purrely. And it's also an out for a Rise Heart, so yeah. And another card for Purrely and Rise Heart is Kurikawa. I think it's just fine. Never drew it, but yeah, I think it's fine. Then those 2 were actually like last minute decisions, because originally I was playing the Battlefield Boxer Uppercutter with Lambert Counter, because I really like the engine against Dark Ruler. Problem is, I think Dark Ruler is not that good right now, and I didn't expect many people to be on Dark Ruler. So I decided I want a card that's good into rogue matchups. So I either wanted to play Dark Ruler myself or Nibiru, because the matchups that I didn't cover that good in the side deck and main deck are probably like Spright, Infernoble, and Unchained. So yeah, this could either be Dark Ruler or it could be the Nibiru. Maybe something else, but yeah, this was last minute decision. Yeah, but I never drew them, so yeah, didn't really matter. And then there's the one Called by the Grave in the side deck. The only reason for Called by the Grave is Dimension Shifter, because Called by the Grave in other ways is not really that good, because most of the cards you stop with Called by the Grave are forced by Connector, so you don't really need it in that way. Yeah, it's nice, but it's really just for Shifter for me. So yeah, you could probably cut one of the 2-offs and play more 3-offs in the side deck, but it worked out, so yeah. I think it was fine, so yeah, that's it with my deck profile.